Welcome to the Patriots post-game show. I'm your host, John Sarianidis, and I'm joined by my partner, Kevin Stone. John Lyons is scheduled to join us here shortly. He'll be jumping on momentarily. Patriots with a 32-13 win over the Cleveland Browns here at Gillette Stadium. With the win, the Patriots have now won 5 in a row, and they improved their record to 6-2. Now, we know you have a lot of other post-game options out there, but feel free to give us a watch or a listen and join the conversation. We are coming to you live on our Facebook page, our X page, our YouTube page, and our Twitch account. So again, feel free to jump on and join the conversation. We would love to hear from you. Comments on today's game, share your thoughts with us, observations, looking forward to the next week. Whatever the case might be, like I said, feel free to jump on and join the conversation. And as I mentioned, John Lyons is scheduled to join us here shortly. But Kevin, I'm going to start with you. Obviously, this game didn't get off to the start that I think a lot of Patriot fans wanted or were hoping for. Kind of a slow start. The defense, which has been starting slow all year, once again gives up another opening drive touchdown. I think that kind of took the wind out of people's sails around here for a period of time. But Cleveland, not a very good football team. Their defense is good. Their offense is bottom third in the league. They struggle to really score or sustain any drives. Patriots kind of hang around. They get a late first half field goal from Andy Borregales to put them up 9-7. And then they kind of took over in the second half, scoring 21 third quarter points. Like I said, en route to a 32-13 win. Some initial observations on this one.
Well, it's funny. You were just busting my balls upstairs. The Patriots defense only gave up 12 first downs and 213 total yards. Now, I know Cleveland is not a good team, but this is an NFL game. So I thought that was pretty impressive just overall. Look, the sign of a good team, you take over in the second half, right? So it reminded me of the Saints game a little bit where they kind of struggled early and it was sluggish, but you find a way. And then ultimately the better team prevails. So, look, 5 straight wins. And we've talked a lot about the home atmosphere. I thought today was as loud and alive as this building has been since we started covering the team. So that's 5 years now, I think, 6 years. So I thought that was important. I thought the pregame introductions were an awesome little touch. The individual introductions for the first time since I think 2001, before that Super Bowl, probably that playoff run, probably the Raiders game at Foxborough Stadium. So there's a lot to like about today between the atmosphere, the way the team pulled away in the second half. Drake May wasn't his absolute best, but he still garnered MVP chance and had a couple of dimes, especially the one to Kayshon Boutte. So all things considered, another great day if you're a Patriots fan.
And WEI's John Lyons now joins the show. John, great to see you as always, my friend. And we just got started here, so just some initial impressions on the Patriots' 32-13 win over the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, guys, we talked, I think it was after the Buffalo game, that we looked at the schedule coming up and we said, hey, these guys should win, 3 out of their next 4 games, kind of something along those lines. And I actually think we talked about it after the Panthers game. And here they are, they've won all 4. So you go down to Buffalo, you win, then you win in New Orleans, you win in Tennessee, you win this week. And to Kevin's point, and I know, Kevin, you've been saying this, I feel like all the time, to win at home is extremely valuable, and they've done that once again. So I just thought in the overall view of this stretch to win all 4 of these games has been impressive.
Sorry, John, I'm having a hard time hearing you. Can you hear me?
Give me a minute. You got me now? No? Let me see. Give me one second.
All right. Little technical difficulty here. We'll get it figured out, and we'll get right back to John here. And again, he could share his thoughts with us on the Patriots' 32-13 win over the Cleveland Browns. Again, we do apologize. Sometimes when you're on location, you will have these technical difficulties. They could happen. Stone, am I imagining things? I didn't hear him. Could you hear him?
Nope, didn't hear him.
Okay. Stone didn't hear a word either. And Stone usually ignores people in life, but I don't think he's ignoring our good friend John Lyons. I think we're both in the same camp there in terms of not hearing John. John will be right back with us, though, as soon as he can. Willem checks in, got the dub, 6-2. Yeah, it's hard to believe. I mean, it's been so bad around here the last couple of years. And you said something to me about this today, Kevin, about how enjoyable it is again to hear the crowd be into that game, to hear them singing and to be into it the way they were. And it's just a different vibe. And again, winning will do that. Obviously, the locker room is a much different place when they win after a game. But, yeah, they got the dub, man, and it's impressive. Like we said to start the show, 5 wins in a row. John, can you hear us?
Can you hear me now?
We can see you talking, but we cannot hear you. All right, John will come back and join us here momentarily. You mentioned Drake May, and you thought, Kevin, he didn't have the greatest of days. 18-24, 282 yards, 3 touchdown passes. He did have that really bad interception, his first interception since the Pittsburgh game. I thought he played really well. 7 rushes, 50 yards on the ground. He had a big 28-yard run within those carries. I thought he had statistically speaking, one of his best games of the season. I know, again, the interception will tend to tarnish that, but the crowd was chanting MVP. He really genuinely is playing at an MVP level right now. Through 8 weeks, I think that we can put him in that conversation, Kevin. I don't think it's far-fetched. I think after what we saw today, you mentioned the 39-yard touchdown pass to Kayshon Boutte. He made some impressive throws today. Now, Cleveland had a lot of breakdowns in coverage. You saw that on the seam route to Austin Hooper. They had a breakdown there. They had a breakdown there on Hunter Henry's touchdown catch. But overall, regardless of what Cleveland was doing, Drake May was on point once again.
Yeah, I mean, when I say he didn't have his best game, it's really by his standards now at this point. So, and look, he had to deal with Myles Garrett all over his ass today. Myles Garrett is just, there's not enough words to describe the type of player he is. And Mike Vrabel kind of said the same thing post-game. So when I say Drake May didn't have his best game, I'm really saying by his standards, because he's been near perfect the last, call it 4 weeks. It's funny, the 2 things you brought up there, the interception post-game, Drake said, I forgot the guy could jump in front of me. It was just really kind of a bad decision. But in terms of I lost my train of thought. Oh, in terms of the MVP chance, Drake said he didn't hear him because his teammates were roasting him in the huddle for the terrible slide he had on a 28-yard run that set up that 39-yard touchdown. So, but even something like that, just the way the team is sort of, I don't want to say getting along, but the camaraderie on and off the field, I think the way that they work off the field is showing up on Sundays. Just that chemistry and just sort of everything about the offense right now. And I said this to you earlier, and you can speak better to it. I thought Josh McDaniels had an excellent day, particularly one drive where he got really, really creative at one point. So everything's just sort of coming together for them as an offense right now in totality.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, after the game, Mike Vrabel said that Drake May needs to go back to spring training so he can learn how to slide. As far as Josh McDaniels is concerned, and I said that to you during the game, first half they struggled. And look, the good coaches, the good staffs, they know how to turn things around at halftime. The great staffs, and we saw it here for 20 years, the great staffs win games at halftime sometimes. They make quality adjustments that end up turning the momentum of a game around. And we saw that here today. Look, make no mistake about it. They had their hands full with this Cleveland front seven and this Cleveland pass rush. You mentioned Myles Garrett. He finished with 5 sacks. We're going to get to that in a minute. We'll talk about Will Campbell's day. But their pass rush and their ability to penetrate and reset the line of scrimmage wreaked havoc on the Patriots in the first half. Second half was a different story. I thought McDaniels did a magnificent job of using his outside running game, misdirection, to keep this defensive line off balance, to get them going in the opposite directions, to influence their eyes and cloud their reads. I thought he did a terrific job using misdirection to not only set up the running game, but in a lot of ways also open things up in the passing game now because Cleveland started playing more single high coverages to adjust to what New England was doing on the ground with their misdirection run game. So I thought it was a masterclass of adjustments by McDaniels. I'm not being hyperbolic here. I'm being honest. I thought he did a tremendous job at halftime. It showed, like I said earlier, they scored 21 third quarter points in the win. again, this is the difference. And I talked about this with our good pal John Sapichetti on the pregame show today about how, look, why has Drake May's development been sped up? What's been the difference? And like I said to him, 2 words, Josh McDaniels. I think McDaniels makes that much of a difference as a quarterback developer, as a play caller, as a play designer, you name it. He's one of the best in the business. And you saw why people like myself think that in the second half. I thought he was terrific. The mighty Ken Matthias joins the show. He says, impressive win, May, another 3 TDs and good performance by the defense. Yeah, again, the defense was terrific for the most part. But, Kevin Stone, I want to ask you, how concerned are you with these slow starts, though? That is concerning to me. It hasn't come back to bite him in the ass the last 5 weeks. But giving up those opening drive scores could be a problem down the road. That this is a defense that takes a couple of possessions to get going. Once they do, they're playing at an elite level. But until they get to that point, they give up some early scores. This is a trend that I'd like to see this team reverse.
No, I hear you. I'm more concerned about it at home. Like on the road, you almost expect it a little bit. But doing that at home with this crowd that was ready to go right off the jump, that's concerning. And it's funny, I asked Bob Douglas about the introduction thing. Pre-game, he said, honestly, that might have been why we started slow. Because if you watch the pre-game introduction, it was not pretty. It looked like a youth team trying to come out there and just sort of all discombobulated and very off timing. Like, it was weird. So, again, the home slow starts concern me more than they would on the road. I'm still not overly concerned, though, because I just think ultimately this defense is good enough to overcome it. Now, when you play Buffalo at home and even that Falcons offense, look, I know they're a roller coaster, but that Falcons offense might give you trouble next week. So there's more games that I'd be concerned about. But when you're playing a team like this, for whatever reason, I just wasn't overly concerned about them not being able to figure it out. They did late in the first half and early in the second, but I hear you. It's a problem, but I'm more concerned about it at home than on the road. Hopefully it gets fixed sooner rather than later.
All right, again, we're waiting for our buddy John Lyons to join the show here. We're experiencing some technical difficulties. So hopefully John can get back on here shortly and share his thoughts with us. Adam joins the show. Adam, thank you again for joining us once again today. I know you were on with us this morning, did exactly what I predicted this morning. They did indeed do what you predicted this morning. That was to stop the run, which they did. They held Quinshon Judkins in check. He did end up getting hurt in the second half and missed most of the half, but I thought they did a really nice job against a pretty good running game. And to your point, the offense was flying high. Once again, Drake May, another big day, almost 300 yards passing, 3 touchdown passes. You see the accuracy. You see what he's been doing so well all season long. It comes through once again. He's now up to 15 touchdown passes on the season, which is impressive when you think about it. Again, we talk about him playing at an MVP level. He is certainly doing that. All right, John Lyons is back.
Got
John, can you hear us?
You guys got me now?
We still cannot hear you.
Damn it. All right. Sorry.
And I'm pretty sure I don't think it's on our end, but all right, John's going to try again. Look, the word quit is not in his vocabulary. He will be trying to come back on and join us here momentarily. You are watching the Patriots post-game show. Patriots with an impressive 32-13 win over the Cleveland Browns. And look, again, they took care of business against a team they got to beat. And if you're a good football team who's an elite-level football team, and again, we saw this over the course of 20 years. When you're an elite-level football team, one of the things you have to do is you have to take care of business against the teams you should beat. Patriots did that today. Again, it wasn't pretty early on, but they were able to turn it around. Kevin, I do want to talk about Will Campbell because we knew coming into this game that he could potentially have a long day at the office against arguably the best defensive player in the game in Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett ended up having a career day, 5 sacks. They weren't all against Will Campbell, but by and large, Campbell struggled today. Now, I do give the kid a lot of credit. He met with the media after the game in the locker room. He talked about it. He owned it. He didn't try to dance around it. He accepted it, but he also said that the most important thing is they got the win. Are you concerned about Will Campbell, who for the most part, he's had some rough patches, but for the most part, thus far through 8 games, has had a pretty good rookie season. Are you concerned at all about what happened today? And are you concerned moving forward that this could potentially affect him?
Not one bit. And I thought you put it perfectly during the game today. This is a learning experience. He's still a rookie. And Myles Garrett is probably the best defensive player in the league still. So no, not at all. I'm concerned with you making him feel bad post game, but other than that, we'll get to that after. But no, honestly, again, he's not going to face anyone harder than he faced today. So if nothing else, he'll learn from this. He'll get better, and I think overall he's been fine this year. Maybe not fine, but he's a rookie again. Like, there's going to be learning experiences. There's going to be growing pains, and overall, I think the biggest thing you can say for an offensive lineman is you don't want to hear his name, during the game. And often you really haven't heard Will Campbell's name very much, which is a good thing. So today, we weren't listening to the TV broadcast, but you probably heard his name a bunch as he was getting turnstile by Myles Garrett. But again, that's the hardest competition he's going to face this season. So if anything, I'm encouraged that he went through this in week, 7, 8 that we're in now.
Week 8.
Yeah, so I think he's only going to get better.
Yeah, it's week 8. Jeez, Mr. Forgets a lot. What? No, I didn't make him feel bad. I just simply made the point to look. I asked him how hard it is to block a guy like Myles Garrett who lines up in that wide 5, which we're seeing that around the league. A lot of teams are doing it. The Browns, Philadelphia, the Patriots do it. And I asked him how hard is it to block a guy of that caliber when they're in that wide alignment and you have so much ground to cover as an offensive tackle. And to Campbell's credit again, he said, look, you know what? It's why he gets paid all that money. He's a special player and he's one of the best. And you know what? Bottom line is he got me a couple of times, but I'm going to bounce back. And the most important thing is that we got the win. And that's what he said. And I did say to him after the fact, I said, look, this is why you said what you said last year about guys getting 1 sack a game and becoming first-round draft picks, that they end up getting to the league and making money. And that's why he makes the money he makes. That's what I said to him. I mean, I don't think that's me trying to make him feel bad.
Well, you made it sound worse than it was. That's all.
All right. John Lyons, we're still trying to get him back on. Again, we're having some technical difficulties here. Hopefully, John will join us momentarily. Ken checks back in. Why did Barmore get benched? I don't know if you guys spoke about this. We haven't. No one really knows. Certainly, it was brought up in the post-game press conference. Vrabel did, quote, address it. He didn't mince words. Basically, he made it sound like we have a standard here. We have expectations here. And when that standard and those expectations aren't met, then a player, he didn't come out and say this part, but he basically said that if those expectations aren't met, a player isn't going to play. Barmore didn't play in the first quarter. No one seems to know why he didn't. Obviously, it's something that happened internally, and I'm sure that Vrabel addressed it with him, and he probably said about as much as he would say to us about it.
I loved his honesty. And again, he it wasn't detail. It wasn't details and stuff like that, but it was very clear that Barmore did something wrong and paid for it. That's the sign of a good head coach. Where now you can make the argument that it hurts the team, but you were also playing Cleveland, so I think if you're playing, a Buffalo or something like that, maybe the punishment is different, or it's taken out during the week or something like that. You know what I mean? But I love it. I love that Vrabel held one of their highest paid guys accountable. And again, I think if you're playing a tougher team, I'm not sure you bench him right away. It kind of reminds me of Belichick sitting Wes Welker for the foot comments back in the day. But no, it's what you want from your head coach. You play by the rules, or you're gonna have to deal with the consequences. So he played the rest of the game, and it ultimately wasn't an issue. But you just hope that it doesn't become sort of a thing with Barmore now. But I don't make too much of it unless, again, it becomes sort of an ongoing thing.
All right, not Ken Matthias, another Ken joins the show, and he says, love the play calling by McDaniels today, especially the series with the throwback Maida Hollins. Great job. So, yep, the fans are happy with the play calling. Ken, thanks for checking in. Appreciate it. The fans are happy with the play calling, as they should be. So I think what it comes down to here is that, again, you see McDaniels' influence when it comes to the development of Drake May and how productive he's been and how good his numbers are. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. And look, I've said that all along. I know there were a lot of people that were like, great, Josh McDaniels again. Yeah, Josh McDaniels again. By the way, Drake May's passer rating today, 135.8. He is just continuing to be efficient, accurate, making big plays. Again, he was 18 of 24 today. He's been even better in recent weeks. He was 18 of 24 today. But like I said, Kevin, you continue to see with him, he continues to make those big throws when he needs to. He didn't have a lot of time today. He got hit a lot. He had another couple of awkward falls there. But by and large, he continues to play at an elite level, and that has been the difference.
So there was one where he got dragged down, and I was like, oh, shit. Like, it looked really bad. It was on the sideline, kind of coming towards where we were sitting. And I think you mentioned Vrabel even joked that he needs to go back to spring training and learn how to slide. He was a baseball player, which makes it even kind of weirder and more concerning that he still can't, I guess, figure it out. But again, I always said that he didn't have the best day in my eyes because his standard has become so high in such a short amount of time. But I didn't realize that was his passer rating. You can't really, argue with the numbers. But right now, honestly, and I tweeted this out the other day, I think the discussion for MVP is him and Dak Prescott. And then I think maybe you can add Baker Mayfield in there in that third tier. Pat Mahomes will obviously be in there as well by the end of it. But he should be arguably the favorite right now in the MVP race. I think winning has a lot to do with that too. If they're 2-6, we're not talking about it, but they're 6-2, still on top of the division, and I believe they're still the 2 seed in the AFC as of today. So if they keep winning, that discussion's only going to get louder.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's too early right now to be talking MVP. As you know, there's still another half of the season left. Guys will emerge. You mentioned Mahomes. I still think he'll be in the mix. I'm not sure Dak Prescott will be in the mix come season end. Certainly May will be. Josh Allen will be. Baker Mayfield will be. Daniel Jones, I think, is somebody to potentially keep an eye. Possibly Matthew Stafford. There'll be other guys that will emerge. But I agree with you. He's playing at an MVP level. And regardless of who else is in the conversation, the important thing is that the Patriots are 6-2 and Drake May's in the conversation. And I think that ultimately that's all that matters. So, all right, we're going to see if we can add our good friend John Lyons back on with us here.
Anything?
So, John, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me? Anything?
No. We cannot, but our listening audience says they can hear you. It looks like it could be an issue on our part, but again, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, we got you.
You got me?
We got you, yes.
Wow. This was so much goddamn work, guys. Like, unbelievable. I usually don't swear on these things, but holy shit. Like,
feel free. This is far from a family show. Swear if you have to.
Yeah. No, but I mean, I don't know what happened there. I think it was just, I don't know. Maybe Chauncey Billups and Terry Rozier, messed with my microphone and bet the under on the show.
They might have rigged it. It.
All right. So you got me now, though.
Well, we got you now. So,
right. So when you couldn't hear me,
restored. So let's start with some opening thoughts on today.
So when you couldn't hear me, I spent the whole time complimenting you and Stone. I actually said wonderful things about both of you the whole time. Look,
Somebody's got to do
it. Yeah, right. So I will say though, to Stone's point, and I think Kevin, you brought this up. I want to say after the Panthers game about how they have to win at home, and it had been such a struggle for years now. And look, you're 2-2 at home, but in the last 2 games you've played, you've been dominant at home. The Patriots have been. I think that's been really encouraging. And I would also go back to something the three of us talked about after that Panthers game. We looked ahead to the schedule, and we said the Buffalo game, as well as those, couple games on the road, then the Cleveland game. Can you win 3 out of those 4? They've won all 4 and they're 6-2. So I think when you, like, my initial thought is you zoom out, and we're talking about a team that won 4 games last year and they're 6-2 right now, just got their second home win. So not perfect, but they're in a very encouraging spot.
So in fairness, first of all, my volume was down. I probably could have heard you the entire time. I'm just
Thanks,
an
Stone.
idiot.
Appreciate that.
But
Guy did it on purpose.
it's funny. I asked Mike Vrabel about the home thing this week because this started a stretch of 5 of the next 7 at home. They can clean up right now. And again, the schedule is going to get harder. You have Buffalo coming in, but you also have games against the Jets, against the Dolphins, against Atlanta next week. So taking care of business here is huge. And again, I go back to the atmosphere here. It felt like the old days today. And then again, that's not to say that, Drake May is Tom Brady or this team is going to win a Super Bowl. But, you both know I get here very early. Route 1 was jammed at 9 a.m. today. And it hasn't been that way the entire season. People want to see this team again. And that hasn't been the case for at least the last 2 years, but probably, 3 or 4? Like, people were giving away tickets on Christmas Eve a few years ago. So I think playing the way they have at home, not just winning, but dominating, it can't be overstated.
Yeah, I don't know. To your point, I mean, the place was definitely buzzing today. I think it did remind me of the old days. I'm not sure we're fully back. There were still some empty seats, but by and large, yes. I mean, obviously, you're starting to also see more people at the games, which is we've documented the last couple of years. You had a lot of empty seats, especially in November and December. And so I think you're starting to see people are starting to re-engage with this football team again. I think they're back. I think that they're excited about it. I think there is still some trepidation. Are they for real? Is this a byproduct of the schedule? I think a little too much is being made of that. But by and large, I think that the buy-in is there again. And I think you're only going to see more and more people coming back home to root for this football team. And I think if you're playing meaningful games in December, there isn't going to be an empty seat in this place come that time of the year. John, I did want to ask you about Drake May's performance, 18-24, 282 yards, 3 touchdown passes. He had that really bad interception, also had 7 rushes for 50 yards. What did you think of May's day?
Yeah, on the whole, I thought he was really good. I mean, this is a great defense. I mean, this is probably the best defense they've played since Minnesota in those joint practices in the early preseason game. And what's that, 2 months ago now? So it's a really good defense. It's a great pass rush. Myles Garrett, 5 sacks today. And look, he got totally fooled on that interception. That was a bad decision and a bad throw. And there was some pressure there as well. But it felt like they came out of halftime, and I give Josh McDaniels credit for that first drive. He had the Browns completely off balance, and not just the trick plays, but just the outside runs with Henderson, play action. He had them totally off balance. But then May built off that, right? Because then, of course, you have the interception. That's really when the game turned, right? You have that touchdown drive early in the third, then the interception, another touchdown right after it. But May, I thought on the whole, outside of that interception, he was really good. He was smart with his running the ball. The 39-yard touchdown pass to Kayshon Boutte, another great throw over the shoulder that not too many guys in the NFL can make. So again, he got fooled on an interception, wasn't perfect, did have the strip sack fumble, but I thought against a really, really good defense, he was pretty good today.
And Ken Mattias does join the show again. We were working to get our good friend John back on the show, so we had to focus on that, Ken. Sorry for not reading your question, but he says this team is on a roll heading into the Falcons game. How strong and confident are you in this team going forward after the way Drake May and the team has played? Well, I mean, again, I think it's the old adage, right? You don't want to put the cart before the horse. But given the fact that Atlanta came out today and completely shit the bed against a bad Dolphins team without Drake London, they lose to San Francisco last week. Now, all of a sudden, I got to be honest with you, fellas, I'm not worried about that game next week, especially because Penix may not play again. Okay, he might be out for that game as well. If that's the case, Kirk Cousins will start for Atlanta. He was not very good today. And look, this is a mercurial football team that's hard to figure out. They've got some injuries now with Penix out and Divine Diablo out and a couple of other guys. But all of a sudden now, a week ago today, heading into that Sunday night game in San Francisco, I probably would have taken a different tone about this game. John, you and I talked about it last week on the post-game show about how we thought, all right, this team kind of needs a litmus test right now. maybe that Atlanta game will be the litmus test. After today, watching them get shredded by a garbage Dolphins team that can't get out of its own way and was arguably the second worst team in the league heading into this week, I'm not worried about that game next week.
Yeah, it's interesting because the Falcons are the most Jekyll and Hyde team in the NFL. You kind of alluded to it. I mean, Buffalo, let's not forget, if Drake London gets one more yard before halftime, they might have blown the Bills out of the building on that Monday night, yet they lose to Carolina 30-0. They lose to Miami today. So, and I thought they played San Francisco tough on the road Sunday night, but like, I don't know what to make of these guys. The only thing that worries me about Atlanta is we've seen now, right? Patriots have played 8 games. They've given up points on the opening possession in 6 of them. 4 of them are touchdowns. With Bijan Robinson, and let's say Drake London's playing, you don't want to get down 14-3 to those guys. Like, that's where they might be in a little bit of trouble. I think those first few possessions are important. I think you get a lead on Atlanta, you can hang on. You can, I don't want to use the word cruise, but you can hang on and you can win that game. I think if you get down 10-0, 14-3, because your defense isn't quite ready to go once again, that's the only time where I could see you being in a little bit of trouble against them.
Yeah, John, that's where I was going to go with it too. Just, we talked about the slow starts 10 minutes ago, and I am concerned about them at home. So with a guy like Bijan Robinson, and again, Cleveland had a couple early big plays today due to lack of tackling or whatever it might be. So you're right. If you get in a 7-0, 14-0 hole, we just talked about the crowd too. The crowd starts, so you sort of hear that or feel that tone shift in the stadium. Well, it's like, okay, now what? So as long as they start fast defensively, get them off the field, let Drake May go up 7 or 14 and not the other way around, I think they're okay. But Bijan Robinson is a guy I'm worried about making a big play early on.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's arguably the best back in the league right now, at least coming into this weekend. Statistically, he was the best back in the league. He's been tremendous. You talk about an MVP candidate. If the MVP award hadn't morphed into a quarterback award, he would potentially be in the conversation as well. But again, given the way they played today, I'm not sure he should be in the conversation either, as good as he has been. A couple of other things to take away from this game. We talked about this earlier, John. Christian Barmore being benched to start the game. He goes into the game in the second quarter. After the game, Stephon Diggs, despite scoring his first touchdown as a Patriot, does not meet with the media. Christian Gonzalez also didn't meet with the media. Do you make anything out of any of those things?
The only thing I really make anything out of is the Barmore thing, and that's because we talked all the way going back to training camp, really going back to the offseason, that the defensive line could be one of the strongest parts of this team. With Milton Williams, of course, our question was, can this dude play over 50% of the snaps halfway through the season? So far, he's been fine. Harold Landry's been good. Chaseon's been good. Then today, though, you see Keon White is a healthy scratch. Barmore's benched to start. And I will say, Kyrus Tonga, I think, has been the unsung hero of this defense. Yeah. He's played really well.
He got dinged up today. He ended up tweaking his knee. I did ask him after the game. He said he was fine. So that's good to know.
And hopefully, too, because I feel like of the defensive tackles, he might be their best run stuffer. And it's something that, again, you're going to need at some point going forward. But I say that to say this, and that you have a lot of pretty good players, and in Milton Williams' case, I think a borderline great player on your defensive line, but Barmore is probably the most talented guy you have up front. And you go back to, there was some whispers when he was at Alabama that like he fell to the second round because there was some questions about him. Then he had the other incident, I think it was last year, right, when he was on video at the traffic stop. Now this today, like, and I don't know what this is today, so I don't want to pass judgment and convolute it with those other things, but you don't want this to be like the next thing in a pattern or a major issue, because I think he's come a long way and he is such a valuable piece of this defense. You really, really want him out there as much as possible.
All right, Stone has nothing for us.
No, I was just saying, and again, we talked about it earlier. My favorite part about that, and I shouldn't say favorite, but I loved Mike Vrabel's honesty. He said, look, if we're going to have a guy not follow, again, I'm paraphrasing, but if a guy's not going to follow the rules, he's going to have to deal with it. So you love that honesty and the accountability from your head coach.
Yeah, no, I agree. It was nice to hear. And I think that, again, the one thing about Vrabel through 8 games covering him and so far, this season is he's been an open book. I wasn't sure what to expect in terms of just how transparent he would be. I felt he was more Parcells than Belichick, so I felt we would get more out of him than we did out of Belichick, but he has definitely been very upfront and transparent. I love that he's a ball buster. That's like my favorite part about covering Mike Vrabel is that there's no one's chops that he won't bust. It doesn't matter. It's awesome, and I think it speaks to who he is and how he establishes relationships with people in the media. But yeah, I really appreciated how honest he was. Now, as far as Diggs and Gonzalez are concerned, I'm not really going to make anything out of Gonzalez. Diggs is scheduled to speak tomorrow, so we don't know why he had to leave. Look, I'll say this, and I'm not going to vilify the guy. When he's been in front of the media, he's been terrific. He answers your questions. He's open. He's honest. He hasn't shied away from the difficult questions either. He has been terrific so far. As I said a couple of weeks ago, I've kind of felt like he's gotten a little bit of a raw deal in terms of how he's dealt with the media here. I think he's been outstanding to this point in terms of how he has dealt with us. But I do want to come back to on the field. A guy that I don't think is going to get a lot of attention, but had a great game, and he did meet with the media afterwards, is Robert Spillane. And I think we've been kind of waiting for this game from him because we knew how he was going to fit into this scheme. Versatile piece, can play on the ball, off the ball, can play all three downs. He can be effective in coverage. He can be effective rushing the passer. We hadn't really seen that up until this point. I thought today was his best game as a Patriot.
Yeah, I would agree. And I feel like his season has been kind of split in two. The first 3.5 or 4 weeks or so of the year, he really kind of was inconsistent. I remember early in the year, especially that Miami game, all the missed tackles they had. And it felt like to me, his season kind of turned when he had that forced fumble in Buffalo. And that was a tremendous play. And since then, you could make the case he's been their most consistent defender. I mean, he was all over the place today. It wasn't just the interception. It was when the Browns tried to run that toss back, fake pass across, trick play. He was the one that made the open field tackle on that, which eventually forced a punt there. I mean, 14 tackles, 2 of them for loss today. He had the pass breakup plus the interception. I mean, he was kind of a do-it-all type guy. And we've talked before about this linebacker group. Not a ton of depth there. So you really need Spillane to be a high-quality starter. And to his credit, I think especially since that Buffalo game, he's been a really good player for this defense.
You can see why he's a captain. He's quiet on the field, but he's all over the place, like you said. And he's a missile at times. I remember there was one particular hit, stuffed the guy in a hole today, and Jon and I had the same reaction. The press box had the entire same reaction. It was, oh, Jesus. Like, he's a hard hitter as well. But he's also, you can tell guys really respect him, too. Every single day, he's coming to work, and he's a lunch pail type of guy, right? Like, he's exactly what you want on this team. But he also had something interesting to say post-game. He said, we're in a locker room full of guys who think we're playmakers. They're expecting to make plays every time they're on the field, and I'm not sure, defensively especially, that everyone in the locker room had that same mentality the last few years. He's brought a different, I guess, type of attitude to this team.
Oh, absolutely. And he's right. I think they do have a locker room full of guys that can be playmakers and make plays for them. So I don't think he's wrong there. I do want to come back to the offense. Going into this game, when you running the football could potentially be tough. Cleveland had one of the best run defenses in the league. And early on, the Patriots on that opening possession were able to run the football. But from that point on, they really couldn't do it. Despite that, though, Travion Henderson leading the way with 75 yards rushing. Collectively, they rushed for 179 yards. I thought they had a pretty good day running the football, especially in the second half. In my opinion, Jon, I feel that they built off of last week's performance on the ground, and I thought they were just as good this week. And I think they've done it the last 2 weeks against 2 quality run defenses. What were your thoughts on the running game?
Yeah, and I think May did a better job protecting himself in the open field than he did last week on his 50 rushing yards. And he had a big run in there right before the Kayshon Boutte touchdown pass. But yeah, it feels like they figured something out with those toss plays because they've been running toss, whether it was crack toss, regular toss, whatever, pretty much all year. But they've been doing it with Stevenson, and when Gibson was healthy, they would do it with him too. it feels like Henderson is such a great fit for that. And we saw a few big gains today with Henderson doing that, including that, I think it was the 27-yard run he had on the right sideline. And of course, I know he had the fumble late and he nearly had another fumble, so he's got to clean that up. But I thought Henderson was really good today. They got a chance to get his speed into some open holes, into some seams. Stevenson, only 2.4 yards a carry. I thought he started the game really well and then was kind of quiet after that. But I will say this, I thought Stevenson's work as a pass blocker today was really important because the offensive line had their hands full, struggled, especially in the first half. I thought Stevenson stepped up and made a few huge blocks, including one at the end of the first quarter. So on the whole, I thought the running game, again, they ran for 177 yards. And even if you take Drake May's 50 yards out of it, I mean, you're still talking about, 125 yards rushing? That's a pretty good day against a defensive front that has Mason Graham and Myles Garrett, Malik Collins, really, really good players up there. So I thought, again, you'd like to see Stevenson have that higher yards per carry, but I thought the backs as a whole were pretty good.
And I do want to, real quick, I do want to come back to Will Campbell. Kevin and I talked about him earlier, but I wanted to get your thoughts on his performance today. I want to give the kid credit, and I also said this earlier, that he met with the media afterwards. He didn't shy from it. He answered the questions. He had a tough day at the office. We knew that he potentially could, just because it's Myles Garrett, first ballot Hall of Famer, arguably the best defensive player in the league. Assess his performance today, John. How do you think he did overall? I mean, on the surface, it's easy to say Garrett had a career high 5 sacks in this game. It's easy to say, well, the kid struggled. He didn't play well. But on the flip side, again, it's Myles Garrett. He's done that to a lot of people.
Yeah, I think it was probably Will Campbell's worst game so far. I didn't think he was very good against the Raiders, but that was his first game as a rookie. And, Max Crosby's there too for the Raiders. But I think it was maybe his worst game. But I would also, and John, like your thoughts as an O-line guy, I'm interested in. It felt like he did a better job when they isolated him or used the running back to chip than when they tried to do true double teams with the tight ends and things like that. Like, it felt like Garrett, I think, had 3 sacks against double teams in the first half, which was just kind of weird. It's counterintuitive to what you would think, right? You double team a guy, probably has a tougher time. And I wonder, is there a little bit of a communication issue? I'm not saying this is Will Campbell's fault, because you and I talked at the draft that at LSU, sometimes he would call out protections at left tackle, which is unique. But we've seen him and Jared Wilson earlier this year have some trouble passing off stunts, and I think they did okay with that today. Now today, maybe some communication issues with him and the tight ends. I mean, it feels like maybe that might be part of the root of this too, is that just as a group, because again, there's 4 new starters on the O-line, and they're working with some of these tight ends for the first time. Maybe there's a little bit of a communication. I mean, look, I'm not telling you that's the only reason. He also didn't play well, but it also feels like that communication piece is something they might have to work on.
Yeah, I think you bring up an interesting point, because I think when they were chip releasing with the tight end, I think what that did was Garrett's in that wide 5, which, look, everybody's running it, as I said earlier, Patriots, Eagles, Browns. Everybody and their mother now is lining those guys up in a wide 5 tilt technique, and they're cutting them loose. And I think what was happening to him, and I made it a point to watch him exclusively for 3 straight series, and what I think was happening to him was when Henry would chip and then release, it was throwing off his kick set and his timing. And by the time he tried to get to the kick point where he could engage, Garrett was already past him. And Garrett's length and lateral quickness are virtually impossible to block. And so I think he had a really hard time when they did that. When they left him on an island and he was one-on-one, where he knew, hey, I've got him. I've got to get out there and cut him off and force him back inside. I thought he did a better job. So I thought that was a really good observation by you, because I do think that when they were chip releasing the tight end to help him out, that affected his timing, because what he was also doing was he was looking inside thinking, I have help. I'm going to look inside in case they bring a pressure or another guy comes around on a TE stunt. So he was a little late to get back outside. But again, like I said, when he knew that it was him versus Garrett one-on-one and he can kick set and get out there, and I think it speaks to how good his footwork is, he was able to do that. Now, a lot of people are going to look at this and say, well, see, there's the short arms. I've already seen some people say that on X. The short arms don't matter, crowd. Have had a tough day. Okay, Thanks, Mr. I don't know anything about O-line play, but I'm going to say it anyway, okay? And Lyons is laughing because I think he knows what we're talking about. But at the end of the day, okay, there's nothing to do with short arms. You're going to match up against a Myles Garrett with good footwork. You've got to cut the edge off, and you got to make him get lateral on you. And what makes Garrett a special talent is that even if you do cut the edge off and force him to have to come back inside on a secondary move, he's good enough to beat you back inside.
I think he did that once too against Wilson, right? Didn't they run a stunt and he got the sack?
Yes.
Anyway, like they passed off. I think that was his third or fourth sack where they passed off the stunt actually okay, and he just overpowered Wilson and got the sack. I was like, damn.
I mean, and that's you. There's nothing you can do to defend that. I mean, look, the beauty of football is coaching matters more than any other sport. But at the same time, even as much as you influence the game as a coach in football, when you're going up against an all-time dude like him, you're just hoping for the best. You're just hoping that whatever you scheme up, however you try to help your players, you're just hoping for the best at that point. And look, you go into it saying to yourself, the dude's going to get his. The dude got his today. And yes, Will Campbell had a rough day at the office. But again, I commend the kid for handling it the right way after the game, answering the questions. He's always short anyway. He's not a guy that has a lot to say to begin with. But I thought for him to stand there, answer 5 or 6 questions, and do it the way he did, I give the kid credit. And by the way, I think he's going to be fine. One thing about Will Campbell is he's mature, he's smart, he's already got a pros mentality. He's going to move on. He knows he was going up against a generational dude. I'm sure going into the week he knew he was going to have his hands full.
Yeah, almost feel bad for Myles Garrett. He's like the modern day Joe Thomas, Hall of Famer, and they're never going to get even to the divisional round.
So people don't pay to hear me talk O-line. They don't really pay for this at all. But the one thing I do want to ask John Lyons, and John asked me this earlier, he said, are you worried about Will Campbell? I said no, because he's not going to face anything harder. If anything, he'll learn from this and be better the rest of the year. You feel the same way?
Yeah, and I think like the point we were making on the double team type stuff, like I expect that will get better. Like him and Wilson passing off stunts from the Washington preseason game, right, where they gave up that strip sack to now, like that's gotten better. It's not perfect, but it's gotten better. I expect that other stuff to get better. And yeah, I mean, to your point, I mean, Atlanta has some guys up front, but those are more their off-ball linebackers, I think, that are really the key to that defense. Like Tampa has Vita Vea, but I don't expect him to be matched up against. And it's a good front, don't get me wrong. Look at like, is Trey Hendrickson still in Cincinnati when you play them? That would, but even he, as good as he is, and no offense to him, Myles Garrett is better than him. So, I mean, maybe when you play Buffalo, because let's not forget, when they did beat Buffalo on the Sunday night, Ed Oliver didn't play in that game. So you have to face Ed Oliver against, but so there'll be some guys, Kevin, but yeah, to your point, I mean, Myles Garrett might be the best defensive player at any position they play all year.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. And I did ask Jared Wilson about that after the game. And I enjoy talking to Jared because he's so mature for his age. And he's a guy that always gives you well thought out, concise answers. And like he said to me, he said, look, we knew going into this game we were going to have our hands full. We knew that they were going to make plays. It was really a matter of us adjusting and doing what we needed to do during the week to prepare for them, so that once we got into in-game situations, we can adjust to what they were doing and kind of go from there. That's exactly what they did. I mean, yes, Garrett had a big game and he was still effective in the second half, but they still lost by 3 scores, which again speaks to how much of a suck bag organization the Browns are right now. But you know, you mentioned Joe Thomas. On the flip side, and I was talking to a couple of people in the locker room about this after the game, a couple of other members of the media, and they're like, oh, you almost have to feel bad for Myles Garrett. I don't feel bad for him. He chose to take the bag last offseason.
That's
he
true.
took
That's
the
a fair
bag.
point. That's
so
a fair point.
If you're going to take the bag, then you got to live with playing on a suck bag team. That's just the way it is. You chose money over championships. You got to live with the consequences. And look, the reality is he's not Joe Thomas in that I don't think he finishes his career in Cleveland. I think he's ultimately going to play somewhere else. He knows I'm going to take the money now. I'm going to sit on it, and then I'm going to ring chase later on in my career where I could be a situational pass rusher who can still get you 5 to 10 sacks a season, and I can pick my destination and be an integral part of that team. So I don't necessarily blame him for taking the money and staying in Cleveland, but you got to know once you make the decision to get paid, and boy, did he get paid. Once you make that decision, you got to know, all right, well, I just punched another ticket to Loserville. I'm going to be stuck here on this suck-ass franchise for another 3 or 4 years. And then in my early to mid-30s, I'm going to go play a couple of years somewhere else, and hopefully I fetch a ring. I mean, I would think that's his plan. Otherwise, yeah, he'll be like Joe Thomas, great player who won nothing.
Yeah, I guess you know what, John? That's a fair point. He did take a lot of money to stay there, so.
Yeah, you can't feel bad for him.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard that from other people too. They're like, man, can you imagine being such a great player and being in this situation? Well, he chose to be in this situation.
Yeah.
Why the F would I feel bad for him? He took the bag. Once you take the bag, well, then you got to live with sucking. Stone, what do you think about all this? You're somebody who would clearly take the bag and deal with sucking.
In a heartbeat. Honestly, it reminds me a little bit of Vaughn Miller, just listening to you talk. Like in terms of a guy who will ring Jason and something like that. But no, I'm with you. It is what it is. If you want to live in Cleveland and you choose to live in Cleveland, that's your problem.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Is Cleveland that bad? I've been to Cleveland. It's pretty nice.
I went once. It was all right. Yeah.
It's fine. I mean, I think Cleveland gets a bad rap. It's fine. I mean, honestly, it's not that much better here. So I'm not sure I'd say it's better here. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I don't think Cleveland is as bad as people make it out.
I do wonder, though, like, at what point, and this is a side topic, but like, what point does Myles Garrett get fed up? I mean, is it this year? Is it next year? Because, I mean, he signed the contract, so if he gets traded, he's getting paid. I just wonder, like, what is that? What is that? Because that could connect to the Patriots if they start to get really good, and this offseason they want to take some big swing. I'm just putting it out there now. It's really early, but I wonder at what point does a guy like that get fed up?
It depends on the money, what he got up front, what the structure of the contract is.
Yeah.
I think he's going to tolerate losing until he gets to a point where he's gotten most of his money on this deal. And now he can walk into Andrew Berry's office and say, hey, I want out. I did my part. I tried to be a team player. You're not putting the pieces around me that we need to be successful. I want out. And then that could be this offseason. It could be in a couple of years. I mean, at the end of the day, again, if you're him, it has to be frustrating. And let's be honest, watching this team play today, and I don't want to turn this into Cleveland Browns pulse, but they're nowhere near competing. You guys know, first and foremost, you need to have a quarterback in this league to have any shot of winning. No disrespect to Dylan Gabriel. He ain't it. So they don't have a quarterback. They have some other nice pieces, but they don't really have an impact perimeter skill player. Offensive line, they've had a lot of veterans that have been there for a while, but those guys are now starting to age. They're going to have to address the offensive line. The good news is they do have 2 number 1 picks in next year's draft, and as it stands now, they're probably going to be top 12, top 15 picks. Their pick will potentially be a top 3, top 5 pick. Jacksonville's pick will probably be a top 15 pick. They're going to be well positioned to add an impact player. But, yeah, I don't know how much longer you do it. And he is a player, to your point, John, that's worth keeping an eye on, because if the Patriots feel they're on the precipice of Super Bowl contention this offseason, those are the kind of players that they would look to bring in. And for what it's worth, he would be an awesome addition to this team schematically. He's a great scheme fit in regards to what the Patriots do, because it's very similar to what Jim Schwartz does in Cleveland. So we shall see. All right, gentlemen, final thoughts here before we wrap it up. And again, we do want to apologize for the technical difficulties. The world is a better place when you get a full show out of John Lyons. We will do everything in our power next week to ensure that you get more Lions, less Stone. All right. So, gentlemen, final thoughts here before we wrap it up.
Yeah, so look, my final thought is we're sitting here, Patriots 6-2. You have an opportunity to go 7-2 next week, maybe be 8-3 by the time that Jets game finishes. And I think it's a good opportunity because just about halfway through the year, I think right now, 9 wins should kind of be the floor. And I know before the year we talked about, can they win 7? Can they win 8? Can they win 9? If things break right, they'll win 10. You got 6 wins and you still have 2 games left against the Jets, a game against Miami. We'll see what Cincinnati looks like when you play them, but the Giants aren't very good either. Like Atlanta next week, you don't know what you're going to get. Like, you should at a minimum be able to win 3 games the rest of the year, if not 4. So like I said, 9 wins, I think now before the year, we were like, hey, if they win 9 wins, it's a good season. And it's still going to be a good season if they go 9-8. But I think we should look at 9-8 right now as the minimum. And I'm not saying they're going to go 15-2, but I think we should look at 9 wins kind of as the minimum based off just the fact they're 6-2 right now.
Two quick ones for me. One, you can't take a step back at home next week. This place will be rocking again. You'll have some of the 28-3 crap all week, and that'll help out with the energy. You cannot take a step back at home. You have to beat that Falcons team. And two, sort of to your point, John, at the beginning of the year and really maybe the last 3 weeks or so, we would always joke about them being in that graphic, the in the hunt graphic.
In the hunt.
Not only
They
that,
might be in a different column now.
so that's where I'm going. You can start to maybe sort of think about that 1 seed. And now, look, I know Kansas City is still probably going to beat Kansas City in the end, and they looked really good last week. Indianapolis is having a hell of a year, but again, I keep going back to the schedule and the fact that you have a bunch of home games left. And I know we're only going to be in November next week, but it's not out of the realm of possibility that you're hosting maybe 1, possibly 2 home playoff games. And again, I know we're a long way away from that, but I don't think fans are crazy if you start to let yourself think about it.
Yeah, I agree with you, John, in that I think 9 wins is probably their floor given the rest of their schedule. I think 11 is probably their ceiling. But then when you think about it, I mean, where are there 4 games that they could lose on this schedule? I mean, if Cincinnati continues to go down this path, you're not forcing Joe Burrow back to quarterback a team that's not going to make the playoffs. Baltimore won today, but that's because Caleb Williams is a dog and he makes dumb decisions in key times. And the Bears are front-running frauds, says the Packers fan. But I think when you look at their schedule, realistically speaking, I can find 5 wins. The question is, can you find another 4 or 5 losses? And again, I think you'd be hard-pressed to do it. Yeah, the Jets won today, but they're still god-awful. Miami still sucks. Atlanta's mercurial. You don't know what you're going to get out of them. The Giants lost Scatterboo today. His right ankle's going the other way. Like, they could potentially win 12 or 13 games. I don't think it's hyperbole anymore because, A, I think that they're a good football team. I said this going into the Buffalo game, and I got crucified on TikTok. Yes, I'm on TikTok. I know. Wow. Embarrassing. 6'7". But but in my opinion, I think that they can win more than 6 or 7 games. I think you'd be hard pressed to find another 4 or 5 losses here, guys. I really do. I think if they stay healthy, and that's the number one thing, they've got to stay healthy. If they stay healthy, to Kevin's point, dream big, man, because this team could win 12 or 13 games, and if nothing else, be a top 2 seed and be positioned to potentially host 2 playoff games.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but John, you make a good point. Like, okay, Buffalo, Baltimore. I think by then Baltimore will still be good, and you got Buffalo, Tampa. I mean, beyond that, is there any game on the schedule that they would not be favored in?
Yeah, even if they lose those 3, let's say.
Yeah.
All right.
That's 5 losses.
5 losses. You're a 12-5 football team. Which
and let's say they screw up because they're a young team. They lose another one. One maybe to the Jets or one that they should win because they're a young team with a first-year head coach here. That's still 6 losses total.
No, I agree. And again, you got to take it week to week. It's a week-to-week league. They could come out next week and lay an egg against the Falcons. Falcons are good enough to, and you said this earlier, John, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. You fall behind 14-3 of them, they're good enough to put you away. It's just, again, you don't know what you're going to get. Are you going to get the team that beat Buffalo 2 weeks ago, or are you going to get the collection of crap that showed up in Atlanta today? Who knows? All right. That'll do it for this week's episode of the Patriots post-game show. Again, Patriots defeat the Cleveland Browns 32-13. They have now won 5 in a row, and they're 6-2 on the season. First place in the AFC East. For John Lyons and Kevin Stone, I'm John Serenitas. We will be back with you next week after the Patriots-Falcons game. Until then, have a healthy and happy week. Peace.